Okay, so sounds like a lot's going on. I can certainly feel, feel quite a bit happening at the moment. So it's been an interesting time, that's for sure. So let's just get started anyway. And who would like to start with the Lord's Prayer?
Yes, Warren, I'd like to do it.
Awesome. Great, thank you.
O thou from whom the breath of life comes, who fills all realms of sound, light, and vibration, may your light be experienced in my utmost holiest. Your heavenly domain approaches. Let your will come true in the universe where all that vibrates, just as on earth it is material and dense. Give us wisdom, understanding, assistance, and discernment for our daily need. Detach the fetters of thoughts and karma that bind us as we let go of the guilt of others. Let us not be lost in superficial things like materialism and common temptations, but let us be freed from all of that which keeps us off from our true purpose. From you comes the all-working will, the lively strength to act, the song that beautifies all and renews itself from age to age. Sealed in trust, faith and truth, and I confirm with my entire being. Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you, Christine. So to start off today, I drew a ruined stone, and I got Loki, who's the trickster. And I don't know if any of you know or watched the Thor movie when it was on, the Hollywood version with Chris Hemsworth, which all the girls are in love with. And in Loki was Thor's brother, and he was the trickster. But in the end, the trickster came good, and he deceived his brother, but it ultimately came good. And this kind of confirms the message today, rescue from without, where often things that appear, if I had to summarize today's message or today's word that I'll be sharing, it's when you get stuck on your hero's journey as you're coming back or stepping up from when you're on the return home, you can get stuck or waylaid on the journey, and often you need things outside yourself or events or things to come your way to help rescue you from that situation. Sometimes those blessings or those things can be disguised as Lokis or tricks. In other words, they can appear to be a misfortune or appear to be a death or a loss of some kind, but actually ends up being a good fortune. An example of that could be you wake up and find out you've just lost a lot of money in an investment, which John D. Martini shares the story of a guy who had a net worth of $750 million and woke up the next day and found it was all gone. And when he came to John's seminar, he was very, very, as you can imagine, not particularly happy about the situation and quite unhappy. So John D. Martini took him through the collapse process to see the hidden blessing and gain. And by the end of it, the guy was in tears because he realized that it got him out of a marriage he was hating, in which he could see his ex-wife walking away with a whole lot of money that she didn't deserve as he saw it. He saw who'd made his life very difficult. He also said that the result of him losing all of his money, it got him to back to doing some of the things he really wanted to be doing in his life. He realized how he was on the verge of going to prison with something he was doing, but because he lost everything, the regulators weren't chasing him, but they were chasing his business partner who'd run off with the money. And there was just a whole lot of different things, including he'd met a new girl who he knew loved him for who he was, not for his money. And so by the end of it, and then he already realized that his new business was starting to take off and he was going to be making all that money back over the next 5 years, but legitimately. So the point is, often what seems to be tricks in our life, distractions or real problems or almost disasters even, can turn out to be a great blessing in disguise, like a trickster like Loki was in the movie Thor, who ended up helping Thor. Another very good example is in Star Wars, for those of you who've seen The Return of the Jedi. And Darth Vader, the very enemy of Luke, at the end ended up becoming his help and helping him to actually complete his path and defeat the Emperor. Or in the Lord of the Rings, when Frodo, at the final point of his hero's journey, when everything he'd been sent to do, which was to throw the ring into the lake of fire at Mordor, he couldn't bring himself to do it. He wanted to hold onto the ring. And his nemesis or enemy all the way through, Gollum, was ultimately became his help as he tried to take the ring off him, jumped up, got into a fight with him, bit off his finger, and resulted in Gollum and the ring falling into the fire. So this is a little bit what this one's about today, this message, that what seems to be like major problems in your life or even on planet Earth right now, as we're seeing what many would say is horrendous times, loss of freedoms and loss of rights, is a way we will look back in years to come. We will look back on this time and realize it was the moment that we were saved, and that much of humanity was saved from themselves and from their insanity of being caught up with wealth, being caught up with superficial affairs and nothing that really mattered. And it would have simply ended up continuing on in the same wheel of incarnation as previously. So that's what this message was that I drew today. That it's bringing, it says here, a mocking shadow of the Creator God, and a reminder that even scoundrels and thieves can be the bearer of wisdom. When you draw this, expect the unexpected. So this is seeming to be talking about some things that are coming and things that are happening right now in our lives and in this planet right now, that's actually appearing to be a distraction, a problem, that ends up becoming a blessing. And even this morning we saw it, where basically with some events that happened the last 24 hours in our family, where James, my 17-year-old son, who's never been injured in his life before, got injured in his collarbone. He's either broken it or pulled the ligaments up the front. So he's in a sling, waylaid, was going to come to Albany and looks forward to playing tennis. He still probably will come to Albany, but he's now not able to play tennis. And I remember saying to him, well, looks like your higher self, my friend, is trying to tell you that maybe it's football, not the time for football, because he's become a day trader now. He's been trading cryptos and even creating markets, being a market maker. And I said to him yesterday, don't be surprised if tomorrow morning you make more money than you've ever made before. And sure enough, today, in one morning of day trading, he made more money than he's made in the last few weeks. You know, he made a huge amount of money this morning. And though he's effectively can only use one hand. So I said to him, well, in a way, this is getting you to focus. And I know my business partner last year, Vina in Melbourne, who my one frustration with Vina, which was probably my only one, we worked very, very well. And I said to Vina, when she was continually getting locked down in Victoria and very frustrated, and then she had a horrendous problem with her tooth that was causing her a lot of pain, and they couldn't get surgery because of all the hospital, you know, cancelling the elective surgeries. I said, well, clearly you're meant to be focused, because she was always running around partying with her husband and other things. So she was forced to stay home. And since that time, business has gone, her part of the business with me has gone through the roof. So I found for myself that the last 8 months, some of you may have known when I injured my foot last year in a seemingly minor one, and although by and large it's fine, my foot's still realigning, readjusting to all the changes that I'm going through biomechanical adjustments, and really slowed me down the last 6 months. But I've noticed that being slowed down has helped me finally realize that I've been doing that too, running around, doing all kinds of stuff, rather than really focusing on the difficult tasks in life, in business, and the work. So now we've been very busy building the infrastructure at the back, ready to leave a legacy with the City Awakening and with our Financial Wealth Education Centre. So this is a lesson here, is that my sense is a lot of you, if not all of you right now, are going through some kind of restriction or some kind of what seems to be a scoundrel event in your life, or something that really just not particularly pleasant to be going through. But this is what's called expect the unexpected, you know. So Steve said, is your runes mixed up? I'm not sure what he means by that. No, this is the one I've got. This is the exact one that I've got. So, yep, the F. So, not sure what you mean by mixed up, but unless I've got my, are you saying, Steve, that I've got the wrong symbol?
Yeah, wasn't it the one that the rune that you drew had the two things pointed up, and the rune that you have put the explanation of the two things pointed down? Or did I miss that? Did I get that wrong?
Looks like you got it right. Classic. Oh well.
I mean, I'm not anal at all, Warren. So you know.
No. Well, there you go. Okay. Well. Clearly this
You're true, Steve. That's awesome.
He is full of fun, Steve. Yes, this is the problem with these silly rune stones. At times, they look exactly the same.
Yeah, it's the down versus the up. Like and the message are often quite different in them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just have a look at the other one, see what that says, and realize that maybe this is the message also, because everything is meant to happen as it does. So weird enough, the one that I'm reading for the other rune stone doesn't resonate with me as much as the, it doesn't actually, but isn't that funny? So we'll read the
mysteries of the world.
Oh, I know, eh? Yeah, someone is paying attention. Yes, that's good pickup, Steve. That's, because that was pretty much showing up pretty damn fast. So, okay, let's get this other one up and see what that one is.
That was Fehu that you drew, wasn't it?
Oh,
number one, I thought.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We're about to find out.
And I think that's about prosperity and things like that.
Yeah. He wants prosperity. Okay, well, we'll finish off this one anyway, because so this was the connection to explore the depths, the foundations of life, and to draw from the well. So that's the one which is the technically incorrect interpretation. This one, it's about a deep meaning of profit and gain in your life. Look with care to know whether it's wealth and possessions you acquire for your well-being, or rather self-rule and the growth of a will. So, and to concern what is already being gained. This urges vigilance and continual mindfulness, especially in times of good fortune, for it is then that you're likely to collapse into your success or behave recklessly. Enjoy your good fortune and remember to share it, for a mark of the well-nourished self is the ability and willingness to nourish others. Okay, well, here's one. Which one resonates most with people, like the first or the second? And we'll see if it's a mixture or if it's one or the other. Just type which one particularly jumped out for you where you're at in your life right now.
Warren, that second one, I think that there's one line that jumps out for me there, is that this rune urges vigilance and continual mindfulness. And that's the thing that when I say Christine and I just struggle with so much, because we go so much to autopilot, and sometimes it's like all of the new knowledge that we've got, all of the things that we've learned, all the friends in high places and the new skills and everything, we just go almost mentally blank with them because we're not mindful enough. At least I'll speak for myself in that. And so that part of that reading really, really resonates with me, is that continual vigilance and mindfulness. And actually, I'll probably even bring it back to my own circumstances, just with going through with Nate and the passing of my mother, and the energies and the spirits around. And clearly I was just on autopilot and not mindful and vigilant enough.
Yeah. Okay. No,
I'd agree with Steve there. Warren, I'd agree with Steve there too. And the other part of that one, it says, this rune calls for a deep probing of the meaning of profit and gain in your life. Look with care to know whether it's wealth and possessions you require for your well-being, or rather self-rule and growth of a will. You know, that, or rather self-rule and growth of a will is so important.
Yeah.
Vigilance and continual mindfulness, of course. Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for bringing both of those up. It certainly makes you think.
It does, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Well,
Because the
yeah,
trickster,
okay, you keep
trickster
going,
part,
Christine.
I was just going to say the trickster part's always there. It's always there, that you have to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
Right.
And what I was going to say, it's one of the things that continually shits me. One about it, that you do always have to be on or up, and you know, any kind of relaxation is the trickster comes in. So it's that vigilant and that vigilance and mindfulness is huge.
Yeah, they kind of work together. That's what I was seeing, because when I was reading them both, I'm thinking, yeah, they both actually speak pretty well at the moment. Like, I know what you're going through, Steve. I straight away was thinking about the trickster and thinking, yeah, what seems to be challenging for your son, and of course with your mum passing, all that, it seems to me there's definitely a hidden blessing there for you right now.
Yeah, well, you're right. There will be a gift in all of this, right? It will be his awakening and more mindful of it, and also deepening that spiritual connection and belief within my own family. So, as horrendous as it is, the presence of the trickster is good news in many ways, you know. But with the warning to be vigilant and mindful all the time, because it can sneak up on you.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Steve. What about you, Grace? Which one speaks for you?
Oh dear, I wasn't listening properly.
Out of those two particular runes that we read, or particular messages?
Number 2, the nourishment.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's been a lot of activities happening lately, and so nourishment and is much needed, what we're going through right now, and also being, you know, absolutely being kind to ourselves, and just come back and just really self-reflect of what's going around us.
Yeah, right. Okay. So here we go. So
yeah, I like that deep probing of the meaning of profit and gain in your life, because it means multiple meanings there, isn't it? Not just financial, but everything, mental, emotional, all that. So it requires a lot of deep probing for us, and really self-actualization and self-reflection.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, so that was the word, even though we had a trickster in the beginning where I mixed up the pictures, but Steve pulled it up. So on that note, let's go and have a bit of a look at the dark night of the soul and what we've been covering in the last, probably since the beginning of the year, really. So yes, I was talking to someone just the other day about this, and we're talking about this whole dark night of the soul, and apparently David Wilcock's now teaching on this as well. So how humanity is going through this, and Obon and I, in our weekly session that we do, I was speaking to her yesterday, and the message that she was given very strongly was we're still, as a planet, very much in that dark night of the soul. And there's a lot of, for example, teachers right now in the Ascension movements and Galactic Federation saying we've now entered the age of Aquarius, and which is the time of the whole, you know, age of Aquarius, and the time where it's the age of the mind, of spirituality, and a new age, higher age for the earth. Now, I've definitely sensed we're transitioning into that and moving into a new fifth dimensional awakened earth. But this has been my dilemma, is that all along what I have seen is something very different to what most others have seen. I've seen two earths splitting, a new heaven and a new earth. And the new heaven and new earth is definitely a fifth dimensional, much higher earth and higher consciousness age of Aquarius. But I've also seen another earth still, which is the old timelines playing out. And Yvonne actually said yesterday, she shared with me, she'd been told very clearly that right now, we are still in the age of the Kali Yuga, or the age of the Pisces, the old age. It hasn't finished yet. We're just transitioning towards the new. Oh, good, Grace, you agree with me. Yeah, because I just always felt that was a false word and a false teaching. And it's difficult because that's the big teaching within the love and light movement. And it's what I believe, for example, makes all of that movement very vulnerable to what I call the rising of the New World Order and the Antichrist. I regard that as a very much something that will make very vulnerable, because when they will see someone promising light and a new beginning, it'll be very easy to believe that. Whereas right now we are going through a strong time of darkness, and the life that's happening right now is more inwardly, and going more inward and getting ready for the next age of the earth, which is going to be a new fifth dimensional earth. When you read the Keys of Enoch, this seems to verify what I'm saying here, as this strongly suggests there's a whole new realm that's being created by the Council of 12. And the Council of 12 is creating this new realm, or new earth, which is going to be fifth dimensional earth, but it said only those souls that have perfected their karma and cleansed themselves on this earth. So they'll be starting afresh with a pure, new species with a new beginning that will by and large have its karma cleared, and will be starting with really dealing with just maybe astral karma and other karma, but with the earthly karma cleared. So that's how I've studied it. The Keys of Enoch seems to agree. Grace agrees with me. And the more I read the scriptures, the more the scriptures is basically saying that. So we are entering into a greater time of darkness, and I see that's going to continue still for a time as things are being worked out. So the dark night of the soul, the whole hero's journey that we've been teaching over the last little while. So yeah, this is going to be a great time which we'll look back and remember this as a time where we shifted, where we changed and came around. So on the hero's journey, when we've gone right through, this is where we're really going through that rescue from out without. That's where we're going through that and getting ready to come through. So the rescue from without, then the crossing of the return threshold will be covering the next 2 weeks whenever I speak next. So the whole hero's journey from beginnings, which interestingly I noticed David Wilcock is teaching this, Yvonne's been teaching it as well. It seems to be a very common theme right now, this whole journey where you go on the supernatural path to do a work, which really is designed to achieve something that you've been seeking to do, with the ultimate aim with completion, meaning that you will be coming back to serve with your gifts to serve humanity. It's 11:11 right now. Awesome. So the call to adventure, the refusal of the call, the supernatural aid, you cross the threshold, the belly of the whale. So these are one set of trials, so to speak. These are the trials that you receive early on the hero's journey, that you go on it thinking, great, I'm on a new path, and then you get hit with all kinds of shit. And forces you to grow. You have the divine feminine help. You have the feminine temptress come to try and take you off track. The result of the experience of the temptress is to atone with the father, which means to get back to masculine and getting away from what's called that dark feminine, which has taken you into emotions, taking you off your path. And then that apotheosis, that transformational moment that comes after doing that, the ultimate boon, the gift, refusing to return, because by the time you've basically been on that path for a long time. And I know for me, this has been a very real one, the refusal of the return. I've noticed that as I've been getting, in a way, pushed into the limelight again to help people and work with people, there was still a strong part of me that really doesn't want to come and, you know, work with people and help people. I know Grace certainly went through this, where you just almost can't be bothered. You're like, you know, let people sort out their own crap. You know, why would we even be, you know, bothering wasting our time helping these people when, you know, really, because you forget in a way your own journey and what you've been through. And so there's a big part of you that just doesn't want to do it. So it's only when a man has tamed his own demons he becomes the king of himself and even of the world. Last week we spoke on the magic flight. And the magic flight, so this was the stage in which there was a chase involved. So the hero was basically commissioned, he will have support, but if he's stolen it, in other words, if he's pushed himself on this journey, there's that moment where the gods are seeking to regain the elixir that has been stolen from him, basically. So we went through how Frodo and Sam were rescued, King David, Moses in the burning bush, and Buddha. So today we're talking about rescue from without. So, okay, I think these slides weren't working last time. So yeah, this is the magic flight. We went through this last time, and rescue from without. So what is this one about? So this is an interesting stage of the hero's journey, where if the hero cannot escape the supernatural world themselves, they often need some help. And I know Steve, for example, just his last couple of weeks of what he's going through with his family is definitely in that situation right now, where there's that point where you almost hit a brick wall, is the way of putting it. So the magic flight is where you're aiming to escape, but frequently disaster can happen, or something can actually happen, or something just can go strangely wrong in the situation. So forces from the ordinary world may have to actually come and collect them. So to put it another way, the hero is rescued from their plight by some kind of unexpected source of some kind. So that's the idea of that one there. So the rescue may be someone who'd previously abandoned the hero, or even someone they don't actually even know, or an outside source or mentor, or God, or something like that. This also happens when the hero either refuses to return from the bliss of the supernatural world, or their magic flight ends in disaster and they require help from outside forces in the ordinary world. So this is kind of a interesting phase, and it can really happen in many different ways and take on various different forms. So the best way to think of this is where you get waylaid in your journey in some way. So you're coming back, but the return home isn't smooth. So you may remember I mentioned in the magic flight that this can happen either naturally and very straightforwardly, where you're commissioned and you get carried through it, or if you've stolen your way into this journey, or you kind of pushed your way through obstacles to get there, rather than being called, then you may have the gods or the guardians or energies trying to stop you from making it. So this one here is telling you when the hero cannot escape the supernatural world, the forces may have to come to help them out or collect them in some form. So in mythic stories, this may even come from a god or being or supernatural spirit. So something of that nature. So this is what Joseph Campbell says in his book about the journey. I quote, "The world may have to come and get the hero, for the bliss of the deep abode is not lightly abandoned in the favour of the self-scattering of the wakened state." And for some of you who've gone on this deep journey and gone on this transformational time, especially the last few years of us, it's quite possible that some of you may have hit this point where you've realized that actually coming to these meditations and coming to these meetings and coming to do this deep work, although it's challenging, you do actually develop a really good inner peace and inner strength. And you almost start to find the security and safety in that, knowing that ultimately our home is within. The kingdom of heaven is within us. So you start to actually feel that. And then going back into the real world, whether it's a job, whether it's a business, whether it's trading or investing, whether it's with your partner, whether it's with your family or your kids, whether it's with your day-to-day people around your life, it can be a bit of a shock to the otherwise now sensitive system. So I know for myself that the more I've cleared my karma and entered into newer levels of purity, coming around and being around the world and what's going on, I'm like, for goodness sake, I mean, people are phenomenally stupid. That's what I start to actually think. And even in this awake business group I've become of the last few weeks, I just, like today, I was telling my son, Edward, you know, like I've been coming around and went to the markets today, and I said clearly I'll be there between these times. And I was having people message me after those times, oh, I'm here now, are you around? And I just go, okay. That was the first thing. The second thing that I noticed was I was having people message me from that group saying, oh, well, you know, if the common law means I'm free, you know, I'm basically here on a visa, but I don't want to do college anymore, I'm on a study visa. Do I have the right just to stay in Australia and just be a free sovereign citizen? They can't send me back. And I just sat there thinking, like, you're either brain dead or, you know, you really just got no idea. And so this is what starts to happen. As you start to change, you realize at one stage you too were an idiot at once in your life, and you're an absolute, you know, moron. And then as you go through your cleansing and change, doesn't mean you stop being a moron, you just become less of one than before as you start to become more awakened. And you do enter that deep abode and you start to see the world differently. And then when you go back around into the normal world, it can be a shock to see that the world hasn't naturally changed, because you almost start to think that as you're changing, everyone else around you is changing, because you see the world so differently, it's almost hard to think of anything other. I remember when I had such an awakening. And I remember last year when the whole thing hit with the pandemic, I was thinking like, wow, everyone must be really seeing what's going on. And I remember realizing that they actually weren't. They actually weren't seeing it. And I was like, why are they not seeing this? And even at the moment, I'm seeing the world now very differently. I'm seeing that the fighting approach is not the way to go here. It's not what's going to work. For me, it's very clearly that the inner empowerment, while building in the background and building a strong movement, basically underground, is the way to go. And many I'm finding are finding that. And then I meet and I'm around people who are still going onto that path. And so part of the coming back into the awakened world, you know you're going to have conflict. You know you're going to have to challenge the status quo. Either that or stay in your blissful abode. So Steve says, I still feel like an idiot much of the time. Yeah, exactly, eh? It's fun, Steve. So you kind of go into the world and like, oh, far out. And as it says here, Campbell quotes, who having cast off the world, we read in the Upanishads, would desire to return again. He would only be there. Have any of you ever had such deep encounters with Christ or with the masters or with the divine that you just hit this point, you beg them and say, please, we don't want to come home. You just want to basically stay, and you really don't want to come back and live in daily life among idiots. Anyone here can relate to that? Or is it only me? Steve can relate 200%. For me, that can relate. Miko regularly, I'm sure, Grace, you've been there. So I like this last sentence. Society is jealous of those who remain away from it and will come knocking at the door. In the scripture, Moses went to the mountain for 40 days and he saw God face to face, and he spoke with God, the Father. and he came back shining, and everyone was knocking at his door wanting to be around him. I don't know if any of you have found, but the more your light starts to shine, people come running to you because they come knocking at the door, especially when you almost don't need them. And when you really don't need people, then they'll kind of it mystifies people and they'll tend to come running after you. So I certainly noticed that myself. So it's very interesting as well, because as you can imagine, was something that my son, who's been doing very well in his trading, was saying to me, yeah, he just doesn't want to make a big deal of it because he's noticing already people are kind of trying to ask him if he'll do it for them. And he's like, well, no, I mean, I'm just doing it for myself and and my trading partner. That's it right now. You know, it's big enough responsibility as it is. So it's the whole thing with Joseph Campbell and what he's saying here is that this journey here is where you've actually got to hit this point of coming into the world and learning to function in the world and function in the energies of the world. And it becomes this kind of a challenge of learning to be in that blissful state in your hiding place, but then come out and deal with the energies of the world, but shift those energies. And rather than being caught up in the energies, you become a shifter. But sometimes you have to get rescued and pulled out of your stupor because you so love being what you're doing. So an example here, in Star Wars, Han Solo returns to help Luke fight the TIE fighters when they're in one of the movies, when they were having great difficulties. In the Return of the Jedi, Luke needed the help of the redeemed Darth Vader to destroy the Emperor. Another good example of this one is in The Lord of the Rings, Gandalf returns from the pit to help Aragorn and the hobbits. So he was a trusted mentor that just seemed to die and seemed to have been taken out. And out of the blue, he came back. I don't know if any of you remember that the Two Towers, in the Two Towers, that's basically what happens. Gandalf returns back to help them fight and to organize the war, and comes back a whole new man. And another one was that how Frodo needed Gollum's help to basically finish his purpose. And soon after, they were rescued by eagles. So all throughout the scriptures and all the sacred writings, it's important to realize that. And even in the Hindu Bhagavad Gita, that actually that outside help, or that from whether it be from a mentor, whether it be from an unexpected, seemingly, painful event, or low-key type trickster event, which ends up becoming a blessing in disguise, or whether it's just basically some kind of supernatural encounter. There's no doubt in my mind that 3 years ago, when I had my encounter with the Council of Nine, was a classic example for me of this particular event, where I hit a point where I had been on a hero's journey for spiritual awakening and enlightenment, and to be a teacher and be an energy worker and do business. And I'd really just hit a brick wall, and I had got caught up in the energy of things, and I just did not see any way out. And I can remember 1 month before that happened, actually saying on my bed one night, pretty much, I cannot see anymore where I'm going wrong. You know, I cannot see it. I feel like I failed in my purpose, and I just want to get out of here. Either that, or I need some help to actually, find out my purpose and where I am and where I've gone wrong, so I can get on and do what I'm meant to do on this earth. And that was my prayer about a month before the encounter. And that encounter was a direct example of an encounter with God through the Council of Nine, to basically provide me help, kick up the ass, and get me back on my path. So like a rescue from without. So Moses and the burning bush, we mentioned that last week, but it's really, really important to actually go back to what was taught, or the lesson that happened here. When Moses first started his journey, and because many have not been to Sunday school and not know much about his story, it's important to realize who Moses was and why this burning bush was so powerful for him and why he needed something like this. Moses had a supernatural birth, so to speak. He came into the world when Israel, the people were slaves in Egypt. Well, not just slaves, it was a very, very dark period of the history of the Hebrews or the Israelites. The Egyptians and Pharaoh, who was a brutal, brutal leader and a very insecure, threatened one, like an ultimate kind of tyrant, had made an order to stop them actually growing because the race was getting so powerful that any baby boy under the age of 2 had to be executed by law. So the mothers were expected to do it. So many, of course, were disobeying the command, but they were getting smart. And they generally were finding out ways to know if the Hebrews were giving birth and things like that. So Moses has escaped even at birth. His mother, what his mother did with him was she put him into a basket and put him onto the water, clearly led by the father, and was rescued by Pharaoh's daughter. In other words, the actual guy who's making the orders, his daughter, rescued the baby and loved the baby, happened to then meet the mother and made the mother his carer, not knowing who it was. So it's an extraordinary story. So Moses were a Hebrew who was destined to deliver Israel from Pharaoh and deliver the Israelites and the Hebrews. He was, and one of the parallelized Trinity, according to the keys of Enoch, Moses, Yeshua, and Elijah, who's Elijah, Moses, and Yeshua, are part of what's called the Paradise Trinity, or what makes the paradise, the realm of paradise. So Moses was actually sent for that purpose from paradise to do that deliverance. But Moses basically was in Egypt, and Egypt was a very prosperous place, a lot of corruption, and Moses basically, though, was a Hebrew at heart, and he got great favor as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. And he then, however, tried to save one of his Hebrews who was being brutally treated by an Egyptian and killed him in a fight. When Pharaoh found out about it, he'd ordered Moses' death, but Moses basically fled and escaped into the wilderness. So Moses basically went into the bush and started living there. So the next 40 years of Moses' life, he basically now lived in exile. He lived in the regional areas, he got married, he became a farmer, he looked after sheep. He even spent a period in prison for a time for a misunderstanding, about 5 years or so, according to, not the Bible doesn't show that, but one of the book of Jasher, which is a reference source used by the Bible. And by the time Moses was 80, the Bible says in the Psalms, or in Exodus, he was the meekest man upon the face of the earth. So when he was 40 and he fled Egypt, he was a prosperous guy. He was a little bit arrogant, little bit saw his life as, I'm this deliverer. He clearly had some knowledge as to his path and tried to do it in his own strength and by his own human achievement. And he moved hard and killed that guy. But that's a very good lesson even for us today. But God has a much bigger picture in not only our hero's journeys, but in a hero's journey for the earth. And that was just a bit of an aside, but relevant to this was my own download I got yesterday from the I Ching. The I Ching, when I did a reading, was saying that the time for revolution is almost nigh, but we're not there yet. And this is not the time to move too hard. It's the time right now to wait, because it says before the mood and the timing will be ready for an awakening and a revolution in society. And we're just not quite there yet. And I think most of us, it's not hard to see that. So Moses, of course, didn't read the timing. He just went and he got caught up with winning what was called a small battle rather than winning the overall war. And sure enough, he was driven into the wilderness. So by the time Moses had this encounter, he was a meek man. He'd long lost the dreams of delivering his people from Egypt. Pharaoh, he just plonked in his too hard basket on his in tray on his desk. That was like a dream of yesteryear. That was a dream that I once had when I was younger, but I was more foolish. But he was now in exile, and he was a different man than he had been 40 years. He was more humble, more wiser. He had a greater inner strength. And by and large, he just let go of everything. And the truth was he would have stayed there for the rest of his life and happily retired and passed away as a farmer living in the simple regional country life. But of course, God and the Elohim had other plans for him. And the Elohim is always associated in scriptures with flames of fire. So the Elohim gods, the creator gods. So there's no doubt in my mind that Moses had a clear encounter with the Elohim gods at that moment. So a very, very clear encounter. So basically, Moses had this encounter and he really didn't want to go back. He very, very much didn't want to go. But he was told clearly, you do need to finish this mission and go to Pharaoh and tell him to let my people go, and we know the rest. So this is an example of where Moses needed that outside intervention to get him back to his path and get him back to doing what he was meant to be doing and to complete his hero's journey. And his hero's journey was a big one, to deliver all of the over 1 million Israelites out of Egypt from the world's biggest dictator. It would be the equivalent to me saying to you, my mission on this earth is to deliver all the people of God, all of the indigos all over the world, from the New World Order and from the seven Jesuit councils and the Rothschilds and the City of London. I mean, it would be as nuts as that. But he knew that was his path, and the Father said, I will make sure you are anointed. And so, again, and it's important to realize there's a good reason why Moses would have been particularly nervous about going back to his path, because there was a hit order, an order to kill him. So basically, he'd be going back to Egypt knowing that he was wanted criminal. His picture was on every newspaper. He was all over the internet, on social media all the time. So when he went back to see Pharaoh, it wasn't just a simple case of a guy turning up to say, hi, you know, it would be nice if you let my people go. He was going to the world's worst dictator, who was brutal, and he was going to tell him, let the people go, while he had a wanted order upon his head. So there's no doubt, though, when he went with authority and he went with power, because Pharaoh was scared of him, and you can see that. He was nervous of this guy and never once intimated that, you know, he would try and take up that old order, which had been there previously. So, but Moses and the burning bush is a really good example of this, that sometimes and frequently we do need an outside intervention, or an outside intervention from, in the Lord of the Rings, for example, Frodo the Hobbit, when he got commissioned, he was commissioned by outside intervention, by Gandalf. Many a time he got help from Gandalf or help from others to get him on his path. Merlin is a very good example too. Merlin was a wizard that lived in the Middle Ages. And the story goes of Merlin, he was a very powerful one. He became a powerful fighter in his early days. And he actually had a situation where his the woman that he loved, because he was in a very dark time of history where there was wars, barbarians, everything, where the woman that he loved was raped, killed, and tortured. And in his fury, he went and he basically killed, I think, an army of 500 single-handedly, just from his fury and from his power. But then once he'd done it, he was filled with guilt and fear and shame, and he fled into the wilderness, and he lived for many years in the mountains, where in the mountains he, of course, perfected his shamanic craft, his craft as a wizard, and he lived there for a long time. And he never planned to come back to civilization. His plan was to stay there for the rest of his life, very much like Babaji, many of the Kriya yogis chose to do. They just chose to stay in the mountains. Now, the Kriya yogis eventually, through Lahiri Mahasaya, were called out, and then Yogananda went to the Western world and took it to the West. And now, of course, the Kriya yogas come heavily to the West. Merlin had decided to stay put. What happened in Merlin's case was a young man had heard about this legendary Merlin, the great wizard, who was meant to be an important one in basically restoring Britain to its greatness, which at the time was being overrun by barbarians. And he was led by supernatural guidance to find Merlin, and ended up in the middle of the mountains, in the middle of nowhere, just being led by various unusual synchronicities. And he actually found Merlin. And Merlin was so surprised that he found him. But he came and relayed the message he was to come back. And at first Merlin refused, but through various different events and things that this guy said was so clear that he was meant to come back, Merlin decided to do so. The first thing Merlin had to do was heal his rage and forgive, because he still had a rage and a bitterness about the loss of his loved one, and a good reason he didn't want to come back. And he went through a catharsis at that moment, with this man helping him to let go of a whole lot of stuff and get healed. And then he came back to society and became instrumental in helping the in not only with shamanic craft and teaching, but also in helping to restore Britain back and put the right king in place. And he became like the sage or the prophet, like the Gandalf. So very similar to what Gandalf did in Lord of the Rings, to guiding the kings and the leaders of his day and giving them their messages. And he became well known as the advisor to kings. So kings would be calling him in for his words and his counsel and his supernatural guidance as to what to do next, even brutal dictators. So Merlin was an example of someone who went on a hero's journey, and he had to be rescued from without, because he was never going to come back. I can certainly relate to Merlin, because I hit this point where I was never going to come back to civilization. I had no interest whatsoever. And now, of course, being heavily involved in business again and teaching still blows my mind a little bit, and even things that have happened, because I can relate to Merlin's frustrations that he even shows that he went through. When you read the writings, he went through a lot of frustrations. He would be like, why are people so stupid? And why can't people see these things? And why are they caught up in these duality things? So it's quite a powerful thing to realize that if you've been going through a transformation, which some of you no doubt have been, and as the original Ruinstone showed today, this is a time to seeing what the meaning of profit and gain and loss is, and realizing as well that for some of you, the journey, if not now, at some stage, you're going to have to deal with this coming back. And generally, if you don't come back of your own free will, more likely than not, there'll be other events to get you on your path and get you out and about. It's been interesting even to be seeing the journey that Steve and Christine are going through. And I'm watching Christine and how she's going through major changes in the last 2 weeks. There's no doubt in my mind that she's being called out and raised up to really be a massive influence in her area and region, even though we'd be a big part of her, but probably would rather not. But the hero's journey gets you and prepares you for that path and to do your work. So the common situations where these arise is we're so far in the darkness we can't get out. We're enjoying the withdrawal from the world and supernatural gift, bliss. The last thing we wish to do is to get back into this horrible world. We're attached to our new life and someone has to come and find us. The Lion King was another very good example of that one. And we require someone to keep us accountable and get us over the threshold. So understand that if you read all the Kriya Yoga teachings, the guru-disciple relationship is considered very important. And the guru-disciple relationship, like, considered a really, really important one, as a guru, having your disciple, as a disciple, having your gurus or having your mentors. You see this all through scripture. Elijah was Elisha's mentor. So he trained and mentored Elisha in the scripture. Moses mentored Aaron, and who mentored others. So apart from a small handful who get raised up by direct encounter with God or mandated for something, the vast majority of people grow through their gurus and through their mentoring. And I know some of you have, and even though, these are just terms, I know for years I had various gurus or mentors, spiritual mentors. I had various people who would guide me and teach me and help me and pull me up to that next level. At the moment, I've got Yvonne who's kind of like doing that work with me. I'm now directly working with the higher councils who are like my gurus. And now in a way, that's how many would probably see grace, or what we're doing as someone who's guiding you to the next level of spiritual evolution. So, and the reason that guru's disciple relationship is so important is that accountability and that submission is what actually helps you get those gifts and helps you to move through it. And that is why sports stars have mentors or coaches. They voluntarily are looking to get rescued from without or getting help from outside. Generally, Sri Yukteswar told Yogananda how important it was for people to have a guru and to honor their guru at all times, you know, really honor their guru and work closely with them. So this is the way that we get to that next level to get that rescue from without. Charles Finney once said that prayer is less about moving in outside God as in getting ourselves into a state of mind for God to move. So the reason that we pray or we meditate or we do inner work is to get ourselves into that state of mind. A very good example, which I've seen in my own life, is I've been watching with amazement the difference this year in investments and trading results in my life. Whereas in previous years, even with all my knowledge, I seem to keep hitting brick walls in that area of my life. And I think it's as simple as now, I've realized it was more important to get myself into an inner stillness and inner detachment around money. And I've realized it's ever since I actually had that rescue from without, so to speak. And my rescue from without was various events where things would just not work out when I try certain things with money myself or go down certain paths. And just realizing, and for me, what's interesting, I've noticed that since I've had that assistance and I've hit that point in my life when I've realized that in actual fact, my sole desire is to build a legacy and build an ascension center, build a city awakening with grace, to build a work to awaken the cities of light all over the earth, to actually awaken the cities of light and activate the cities of earth into those cities of light. And then the city of Enoch to actually activate not only those cities, but move people into their ascended bodies and ascended beings. And not just for me to do it for people, but to build a center which gives people the guidance and the process to do it. And I've noticed since I've done that and been more detached, it's been flowing easier. So Neville Goddard says, feeling is the secret. It's getting yourself into that state. So we see numerous scriptures. We see people crying out for supernatural guidance and getting some kind of help. So let's have a look at Psalm 40 especially to start with. It says, I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined unto me, and he heard my cry. He brought me up also out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and he set my feet upon a rock and established my paths. He has put a new song in my mouth, even praise to our God. Many shall see it and fear, and shall trust in the Lord. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu teachings or Bible, it talks about Rajas, Sattva, and Tamas. And I think it's the Rajas is a restlessness. That's when you're really seeking an inevitable stage that you go through an enlightenment where you're going through a restlessness, seeking for that outside help to guide you. And then when you finally get it, you come to this place of inner stillness and realize that you always had the answers in you all along. And that's what's called, I think it's Sattva or Tamas. So Psalm 140 is showing this exact thing. Waiting patiently for the Lord, he inclined unto me and he heard my cry. He brought me out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock and established my paths. So this is a really good one showing the outside help that can come your way and can deliver you. You'll see this all through the book of Judges as well. In the book of Judges, you constantly read about situations where the people of Israel really badly lost their way. And when I say badly lost their way, they really lost their way quite badly. So in those situations, what you see is that the people of Israel, as they lost their way, it says they turned to evil, or in other words, they entirely got caught up with their self-greed, their self-consumption, and things like that. So it says, as soon as, by contrast, the people cried out to the Lord, it says, he then delivered them and turned to them. So there's this constant reference here to this crying out for help and to deliver you. And this basically thing to get that outside rescue. What I like here about this particular one is notice the language he uses, because there's various ways for you to get to this point. And you can see that especially in the Psalms of the Songs of Ascent. The Songs of Ascent, in the Psalms, which are Psalms 120 to 134, have a series of threes, like this 5 times 3. So Psalm 120, 121, and 122 basically go together. So this is quite useful. So this is a bit of a detour, but it really relates to Songs of Ascent. So I'll just explain how these actually work. So there is a threefold pattern that goes on here. So let me just put this here. So just typing it up here. Here. So Songs of Ascent. So there's this threefold pattern that you see that follows these. And these can give you a very good example of a method of crying out for help, so to speak, or divine assistance, and when you hit a point. So cry for help, thanks by faith, and result accomplished. So let's just have a quick look at these so you can see what I mean. So let's just look at this fourth one here, Psalm 129, Psalm 131. So when you go to Psalm 129, for example, so notice the whole restlessness of this psalm here. So this is, as you can see here, and keep in mind that often you have to go through this when you really feel stuck in energy. What do we tend to do? We often tend to hold it in, whereas the best thing you can do is let it out. That's why Grace just always says let it out. That's why her shadow work. So notice that Psalm 129 is a really expressive psalm. Like, many a time have they afflicted me from my youth. Many a time. In other words, I have been tormented. I have been harassed. I have been absolutely smashed in my attempt to go under my path. Yet they have not prevailed against me. The ploughers ploughed my back. They made their furrows long. In other words, I got abused in my childhood. I got the shit beaten out of me emotionally, maybe even physically. I was absolutely horrendously treated. But yet I know that the Lord is righteous. He's cut aside the cause of the wicked. I'm free from all that now. But let them be confounded and turn back. And you can see this here. There's an absolute letting rip of anger, of fury, of almost a sense of bitterness of the whole experience. So very much stuck in the energy of that. And then what's happening here is there's a call for that outside help. So this is the rescue from without that comes. So notice now the next part in this same follow on from this last one. Now what he's saying is, I'm crying out to you. And now, whereas in the last one, you may remember in the Psalm 129, he was going all on about all these people who've hurt me, all these people who've done this stuff, all these horrible people, let them be judged. Let my ex be badly, let my ex get punishment. Let that horrible government premiers who bring out horrible laws get their karma. That's what that's what you tend to be praying. But then here, if you should mark iniquities, who will stand? Now there's a bit of self-reflection, like, yeah, I know my ex was a bit of an arsehole, and I know that that the government have passed some horrible laws, and yeah, I know that business partner of mine's pretty bad, and I know that guy I just dated is just like horrific. But hey, I can see that maybe I'm not perfect either, and if you should mark my own karmic iniquities, I'd be in a bit of trouble. So now there's a bit of a weight to be rescued. In other words, okay, I've realized now I'm stuck in a situation. I've got to be rescued. I need deliverance. So now there's a faith. There's a prayer of faith coming in. So that's the thanks by faith. The next one is result accomplished. But now look how it finishes. Now everything is in inner stillness. all of the restlessness, all of the craving for outside help, it's gone. In other words, whoever this is has gone completely within. And they're now saying, I'm not haughty, I'm not puffed up, I'm not overworked about this, I'm not trying to make it all happen, you know, I'm not trying to understand all something which just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, now I behaved and quietened myself as a child that is weaned of his mother. So you can see all this here now. It's interesting if you go through all the different Psalms and go through them together in that particular Songs of Ascent. If you go to Psalm 120 as an example, you will see that. So you will see the cry of distress, you will see the anger, talking about people who are psychically attacking, bad-mouthing you, who hate you, family members and people who are bad-mouthing you behind your back. And notice that the last words, I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war. Very much stuck in duality. Then Psalm 121, notice again, so this pattern is there. Cry for help first, now thanks by faith is the next one. And you can see this here. There's a whole prayer of faith. What's important to realize is that the middle Psalms in these ones, so Psalm 121 here, which is the prayer by faith, the outward circumstances haven't yet changed. So they haven't actually changed as yet. What's now changed is the inward attitude to those outside circumstances has changed. So there's an inward difference in the way they're seeing it. In the prophet Habakkuk says in chapter 3, he says, although there's no fruit upon the vines, there's no cattle in the pen, no sheep in the stalls, that we're in a time of desolation, that we're in a time of famine, I'm rejoicing in God and being thankful in my Saviour. In other words, a complete inward rest in what's going on. Not being caught up with the gains, nor being caught up with the losses. I was actually giving this exact guidance to my son today because he's made a lot of money from his day trading. And I was saying to him, he's saying, well, why would I take any money out and cash it out? I said, because I said, good times, you've got to consolidate. And I said, it's about managing your gains and your losses. So I said, it's when you're making a lot of gains, take it out, get your capital back, realize some of your profits, know then that everything is free. Then you do something else. So now the next one is the thanks for the results. So you can see this here. Now there's just a massive thanks and having seen the results that you were looking for, which was connection, oneness, which was the whole nature of that Psalm 120. So basically, we can see that threefold pattern there, and we see these numerous scriptures crying out for help. We can even see this in some of these other ones here, of this cry for outside help all the way through. Psalm 142 is another really good example that we see that. So listen to these words. I cried to the Lord with my voice to the Lord did I make my supplication. I poured my complaint before him, I showed him my trouble. When my spirit was overwhelmed within me, you knew my path. In the way I have walked, they have secretly laid a snare for me. I looked on my right hand and beheld, but there wasn't any man that would know me. Refuge failed me. No man cared for my soul. Then it says, I cried unto you, O Lord. I said, you are my refuge and my portion in the land of the living. Attend unto my cry, for I am brought very low. Deliver me from my persecutors, for they're stronger than I. Bring my soul out of prison, that I may praise your name. The righteous shall compass me about, for you shall deal bountifully with me. So this is a very good one for just basically that call for the outside help, or that call. So that moment when you just know you require some help, whether it's from a guru, whether it's from an outside mentor to help you get through a situation, whether it's for some kind of inner release, anything like that. Okay, so I'm going to just take it through to here now before we do a code activation. I just want to get you just to think about it and just say, anyone here today, like, what's your greatest lessons? And do any of you here that can relate to this and know right now, you're just looking for a change of perspective, or you've got into that state where you can feel you're being pushed out of your comfort zone to that next level of your journey, but that you're almost resisting it and wanting to stay put out of fear, or you just feel like you've got some stuff that you're still finding it hard to clear in your life, whether it's unresolved past stuff, whether it's just stuff you're carrying, it's heavy right now, and just need some help. So just in the text chat, if that's you, just type a Y, or just type your greatest lesson. Okay, a few people, yeah. Okay, so it seems like most of you. So let's just type what your greatest lesson is that you got today from this. Yeah, I felt to go very slowly and gently today, which is different to me normal, and Grace just messaged me saying, I feel there's a huge fuse day worn out, so being gentle is good. Thanks, Grace. Is anyone here who's feeling a bit worn out and a bit tired and weary and could do with a bit of a refresher or activation? Christine, reminder, there's always assistance. There's always assistance, Christine. There's always help. Jody, I can see stopping myself. Yes, Jody can relate to that. Steve, totally. Yeah. That's what I was feeling. I feel people just need some refreshing today. I'm going to try and play some music while I do this code activation. So I'm just going to see if you can hear it when I play this. Can you all hear that music? No? Okay, so no one can hear it. Okay, let me see if there's something I can do. Okay, can you hear it now? Can you hear me? Okay, no. You can hear me, but not hear this. Okay. Can you hear me now? Or can you can hear me? Can you hear the music? Okay, it's not working. Try audio settings. Okay. No, can't do it. It's a bummer. I was really hoping to have that up. Okay, so we'll just do the code. Okay, what does everyone think of the code? This is a new one, never been revealed before. Yeah, wow, hey Sheldon, the laws of the Kybalion, this is called. Yeah, it's an amazing one, this one. So what this is what's called the Kybalion. The Kybalion, which is the principle of vibration, that nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. So it's basically a series of higher laws of Hermes. So yeah, lots of multiple pyramids moving. Interesting, Grace. Yeah. The 7 Hermetic principles, which is the principles of mentalism. So these are encoding these laws. That all is mind, the universe is mental. It's the first law. The second law is a principle of correspondence, which is as is above, so is below. As is below, so is above. This embodies the truth that there is always a correspondence between the laws and phenomena of the various planes of being and life. The third one, this is of ancient Egypt and Greece. The third one is a principle or law of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. The next one is the law of polarity. Everything is dual and has its poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical but different in degree. All paradoxes can be reconciled. All truths are half-truths. The fifth one is the principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. And the principle of gender. Gender is in all things. Everything is its masculine and feminine. Gender manifests on all planes. So just really embrace this code. There's even a rainbow around, which you can see around the center. Just breathe it right into your third eye. Famita is crying. Yeah. Such a deep code, isn't it? It's just a real refreshing one. This is meant to be for everyone today. Really deep refreshing. Just share what you're feeling with this code, everyone. Yeah, Grace, very watery elemental. For me, that is unlocking my heart chakra. Yeah. It's very soft code, this one, I would agree for Mita. Anyone else? I have a feeling I know how to get some music too. Can everyone hear this music? Yeah, now you're hearing it. Good, very soothing. Yeah, this is a DNA activation sequence. Yeah, as gentle as Jody, I agree. Just the soothing and the healing of the heart. I feel the Holy Spirit might be here. The Comforter. The music breaking up, is it? Grace is saying? Because if it is, I'll just set it off. The music's breaking up, I'll just get it off. Okay, I'll turn it off. Gosh, very hard to get music on Zoom successfully.
I feel too, as everyone's coming into relaxed state and stillness, to really visualize that your wheel of all your chakras is moving. Just allow it to spin. And I feel for you, Warren, because all I can see is just pyramid after pyramids moving in the frequency of this code. And it's taking us to a lot of refreshment, revitalizing, creating vitality in our energy. And that watery stream drawing us in and into the fire right in the center of it. So if you can give the command as the masculine, combining us together, we are many, yet one. We are one, yet many. Just like I'm seeing this, it's like a pool, and it's like we're united together, we're interconnected. And that rainbow around it is pulling all our energy together, so that as we combine and synergize and synchronize our frequency and vibration together, we're creating multiple breakthrough in the quantum.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, if you've got any pain in your body, in your soul, anything, just bring it to the pool. Just visualize you throwing it in the pool. And those who know that's not well either, just visualize all the pain is going through into this pool here, all that black dots with the blue around it. And then, and bring it into that fire in the center.
Okay, so just inhale this code into your third eye. I can actually see it going it's just going right over the head, and I'm seeing it kind of going more over the left side of the face, covering the whole third eye, but stronger on the left for some reason, the left side of the face, almost on a diangular triangle angle, like this triangle here, going right into the heart. I don't know why, but that's what seems to be happening. So just get a sense of it coming and just notice how it's coming in. And yeah, just allow this just to enter into you. It's really unusual what's happening here. Yeah, William is straining out the heaviness and dark energy from everyone and bringing life. Yeah. For some reason, there's a lot of heavy energy in people's left side of their third eye going right across their heart. That's what I'm seeing. Right across their heart and right across their third eye, especially the left side, the pineal gland, the entry to the soul. So it's commanded that this Kybalion code is used to activate all of the energies. What's the word I'm trying to think of? It's commanded that this is used to activate everything. The third eye, right through to the heart. And I'm seeing like a clearing out, just clearing out like an old spring cleaning, junk clean out. Just imagine everything being taken out and just get a bit of an image right now of, I'm seeing like a man coming and just picking up stuff out of your heart and like putting it into an old box. A bit like when you're spring cleaning and you're putting it away in a shed. It's been taking out all the old energies that no longer serve you. And it's not like they're being thrown away, but just being moved away out of your main hologram so that they're there to be life lessons still, and they're still there for you to have memorabilia and memories so you can look upon these things and take them as experiences to help you. But there's just a shifting out of your hologram and out of your being forefront in your mind. That's what I'm seeing. It's just clearing out all the density from your mind, from your third eye, right through your heart, right around your shoulder, right all within the feminine and the responsibilities that are being carried right now emotionally. I'm just also going to command by any discarnates that are here right now, karmically, from Albany, from what's going on with Steve's son, with anyone else, but are not serving the situation in any way, shape or form, that they be provided with a third order escort, taken to the portal, and they're taken to realms justly earned to go through their life review and receive their just rewards on all levels, on all dimensions now. Whew. I just saw a whole lot of them blow right through a portal. Whew. Yeah, Grace getting goosebumps on my right arm. Yeah, absolutely. There's, I don't know if you saw that, Grace, there's a whole lot of discarnates who are trying to block this today. A whole lot of them. Just all went clearing out, then I just blew them all through the portal. And the thing is, many of these discarnates come in disguises as voices who are kind of crying for help and please help me, but really they're not. They're actually deceived. Many of them are either deceiving spirits or they're just parasites. They're just fourth dimensional beings who are parasites on Earth, who leech energy from people, and they're just doing the same thing in the fourth dimension, only they're much worse because they don't have a body now. So they're actually trying to steal your body energy, steal your life force, steal your attention, steal your focus, to keep giving them energy. And they sound really plausible, like, please, you know, I'm struggling, I'm finding it hard, but they don't mean to change. So these ones are being taken through for their life review, and they're going to have to work out their own karmic path in their own way now. There you go, Miko. Yeah, went from feeling very heavy and feeling hated for some reason to feeling light. That's very discerning, yeah. Now, you picked up what happened. There was a lot of discarnates who are basically moved. So, Christine, that's what happened. I didn't feel anything except Nate's gut pain. Yep. Yeah, stop crying after the discarnates were cleared. Yeah, some of these are very tricky, because what I was actually seeing, Grace and Vamita and everyone, that some of these discarnates were genuinely needing help. Some of them were actually trying to trick people. They were actually deceiving spirits. They were actually, had not necessarily demons, but they were discarnates who had no intention of changing. They were stuck in the fourth dimension. And what I was being told was they were parasites on Earth. They were leeching off people's energy on Earth within their families. They've done it to some of you in previous incarnations, and they weren't had any intention of changing. And they've really just got to go through and have their life review and go through whatever process they have to go through. Yeah, Jody has more energy. That's lovely. It's much better. That's much better. Much cleaner, I agree. Okay. Now the third eye has started to become more balanced. I could feel it was very imbalanced before. Yeah, peaceful and powerful. I would agree with that. Okay, so that's better. So a lot of people seem to all be feeling a lot better now, which is good. Just going to pray something else as well. So I'm going to pray activating all heads on the first 3 levels and up the levels, especially in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th chakras, but also in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Merging all the mirror opposite heads and bringing in the Christ opposite heads up the levels. Cleansing demons, thought forms, soul fragments, personalities of others, etc. on all levels. Clearing out all heads, all occupants, and anything on the foundation or source of any analogical experiences, heavy emotions, negative energy, especially on the right side of the body, releasing all the tension and strain at the front of the shoulder, at the back, in the third eye, and releasing it all, taking all cobwebs, the matrix or the spider's web that's blinding the eyes or the minds of people, and clearing it all off on all levels and all dimensions now. It's just interesting, everyone. I was just seeing like a little spider's web just going from people's third eye right up on the right side of the body, going right around the front of the shoulder. It's interesting because James injured his shoulder at the front on the right side. So I was just doing a clearing there. Oh. Anyone feel anything, man? Something clearing from my lower back for me there. Yeah. It's interesting. There's a bit clearing today. Yeah, you see, I keep wanting to finish it, and I just keep getting a no, there's still work happening. So Grace feeling the tide waving through and cleaning energies. Yeah, no, there's something happening. Yeah, Jody felt like a warmth and cobwebs came from my third eye. Yeah, I was certainly seeing that. Yeah, Grace, warm honey filling the soul. I agree with that. Okay, so take a sip of water, everyone. Yeah, low back feels lighter. I feel that that's cleared what was ever meant to be cleared then. So has anyone got any questions or things that they would like, or any comments, or just type what you felt or what you experienced? Thanks, Steve. Yeah, thanks, mate. Godache disappearing. Yep. Nice feeling, isn't it? Okay, so thank you to everyone. Okay. Well, Grace, do you have anything more, or shall we end it now?
Oh, it'd just be lovely to integrate what everyone's felt. Just allow the integration to fill everyone. It's been beautiful today. Yeah, it's been gentle, hasn't it, Sheldon? I feel like a new wave's coming. Can everyone else feel that? It's like coming from deep within the well. If you need to go, have a great week, have a lovely week. But I feel to just keep going for a few more minutes. It's like this deep wave is coming through. So for those who can sense it, just move the energy up your spine. We said at the same time, Famita. So move the energy up through your spine. As it goes through the spine, move the energy through all the nervous system, touching all your organs. Allow the frequency to reach every part of your body, every part in your muscles, your sinews, and allow it to go through the nervous system, going through your bloodstream. Oh, that's great for me. That's released it. So combining the alchemy of fire and water, combining all the forces together and going through everyone's system right through now. Any aches and pains, moving with this code, going through all our energies, creating our pure energy, free energy, and creating our conscious energy to be awakened, fully awake. In the power of Christ, the divinity within all of us, move the power of the Holy Spirit right through us, opening wider our heart chakra, our crown chakra, bringing coherence to the mind and the heart together, moving in the yin-yang, masculine, feminine, Shakti, Shiva. Taking us through the portal of time, collapsing time and space, and clearing everything that needs to be cleared in our karmic through our generations, firstly with ourselves and throughout all our generations from past, present and future. Open up all the vortex through the heart chakra. Bringing in the transmutation and using the creative sexual energy, transmuting through all of us and each one of us here. Moving all the pyramids in this code, feeding and nourishing our soul, enriching our soul, enriching our mind, body, and soul. Connecting this code to our Merkaba, increasing its vibration and frequency into unconditional love. Clearing all our baggages and taking us into that tree of knowledge. Take us into the Buddha state, to the Ein Sof. Spinning all the Sephiroth in the tree of knowledge and throughout all of us. Commanding Used, commanding it to move in all the energies through us, moving in our astral plane, our mental plane, physical plane, moving it as one, clearing everything and taking us into the next quantum of the Sephiroth of the tree of knowledge now. Move that ripple effect right through all our parallel, multi-dimensional beingness in all of us now. Sundarabasikia Rabashiti. Kiarabasiki. Clear right through. Cause us to float, going into our lighter bodies, connecting to our higher self, connecting to Ein Sof. Kunarabasikia Rabashiti. Taking us right through to I am. Opening up our third eye, cause us to see the truth for us, and each one of us individually where we're at, cause us to see what we need to see and transmute within. Holy Spirit, move as the wind, the elements of air and ether. Ooh, loosen everything. Wow. Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you, everyone. If you've got any last thoughts, anything lasting to share, otherwise, have a lovely week. Okay, we'll see ya. We'll see you again real soon.